Well, hello, YouTube. As promised, I told you I would bring you my life coach on, and today we are going to talk about the journey. So, I started last year. I was in Buktush in the basement. There were a water leak. I had to move out. I ended up homeless. And in my second shelter, I met Monique. How you doing, Monique?
Good. How are you, Carolyn?
I'm good.
Thanks for inviting me.
So you're welcome. That's the minimum I can do for you. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and tell the whole world what you do.
Okay. Thank you. Well, right now I'm retired, but prior to my retirement, I worked in human resources before that. And then I was also a coach, I was a consultant, and a therapist. So I've had a lot of hats that I've worn. And I was looking forward to my retirement to be able to enjoy some time to do some coaching on the side and a bit of writing. But what I found myself getting into was I felt I faced depression. And I had decided that based on my experience, I thought what I should be doing is helping others overcome depression, and not based on my background as a therapist, a coach, or even as human resources, because actually I helped others in that capacity as well. But what I wanted to do was help others because of my own experience personally, and thought that individuals in shelters would get a lot from my experience, not necessarily my expertise, because I had a whole newfound appreciation for the effects of trauma and depression in my background. And that's how I met Carolyn.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about the depression side though.
That's
May,
how
Maybe you said it when I met you at the shelter.
I did. Yeah.
So at the shelter, every morning we had a house meeting, and she, on one day, on one occasion, she was introduced to us, and it was like what, around November, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was the end of October, 1st of November. Yeah.
Right. And I told her I kept the coordinate she gave us to reach to her, and I did reach to her once I moved out in my little um, loft that I had before the move here, and uh, it was a place very difficult for me, not because it was necessarily a bad place. It was not my place. There were a lot of noise, and I was confronted with a lot of issue of other resident. And I reached out to you because, yeah, I was going nuts, kind of. Huh?
Well, I remember, I'll tell you this, I remember meeting the group, and I remember telling the group that even though I have this expertise and this sort of background and training, that I wanted to share on a personal level how I wanted to help others. But what was really funny with you, Carolyn, was at the end of my little session, you had said, well, do you have any cards? And I didn't. I said, no. You asked me, you said, do you have like a website, or do you have, well, I'm working on that. And then you said, well, how do you expect us to get in touch with you? And you were the one who actually helped me put cards together, get my website together, or at least give me suggestions on what channel to use. And so actually you were quite helpful and proactive.
And I taught you how to use whereby here,
Uh-huh. Yep. You actually said, do you even know
which,
whereby? And I go, what? Yeah.
yeah. And since then we started doing video conference like this
Yeah.
and having our meeting and coaching through internet,
Yeah.
through COVID-19 also. And
Yes.
that was the most difficult part, is that when everything shut down, you try to get help. And during the everything was shut down, and what do you do to get help at
Yeah.
this point?
Well, a lot of residents as well, if you recall, the biggest issue was being locked down in close quarters.
Yeah.
So now it was helpful, of course, to have a shelter. So, not saying that that wasn't the greatest thing to have at that time, but it's also very trying and taxing on people that might be used to getting out, socializing, getting support from family members, friends, and then now being in lockdown. Some of these residents having children and having close quarters. Very tough. And when you're going through the mental anguish of just being isolated, notwithstanding some of the psychological and mental issues that they had gone through as well. So you're absolutely right. It was a tough time.
And it was even more difficult because where I was living, we had a family room where people could gather, watch TV, and we had a fridge. And like when I used to go to the food bank, all the things I didn't wanted, I used to put it in the family room, and people would get it because
Yeah.
not everybody was entitled to go to the food bank in that place. So, and there were women with children, and that must have been the most difficult part, is what do you do when you have children in the lockdown?
Right, exactly. And the stress of even the disease itself was playing on everyone's minds because everyone has anxiety during that time. But then on top of that, not being able to get the support. So why I offered services was to offer perhaps just a way in which they can reach out for, even if it's just support, even if it's just to be able to vent, right? To be able to just say, gosh, this sucks. I don't get to see my friends. I don't get to see family. And just that time to just talk to somebody else, because a lot of the time we get a lot of, we can self-soothe with friends, right? Having a coffee or, sharing experiences. And if you can't do that, that makes it even tougher. And the anxiety of not knowing when it was going to be lifted. There's
Right.
also that, the fear of the unknown, of just the disease itself, lockdown, the isolation, and then just not knowing, not having answers. My understanding was your shelter didn't have someone on site as well, because they said that it would be healthier, or it would be better protection if they lived off site. But then that meant you didn't have uh, people there monitoring the behavior. And to your point about the food bank, right? You're putting things in fridges. Who's going to be the adjudicator, if you will, if there's
Well, when they
people not
shut
getting
down
along?
when they shut down the family room, I asked, I said, what do we do about that? She said, well, you're gonna have to throw it out. Because when I was going at the food bank, we couldn't pick and choose anymore. They would give you and you take it. And you
Oh,
don't pick and choose anymore. You can't leave
right,
nothing behind.
right.
So I had to bring everything back. In the
Oh, wow.
beginning, I was able to leave it in the family room, but at one point they shut down the family room. So I
Mm,
had no choice but just throw it in the garbage.
right. The other thing I noticed too, Carolyn, was when I was there, even, well, I think there were a few sessions, you have a lot of people struggling with their own specific issues. So it's not just, um, you know, why they're there, but there's also the trauma that they might not be aware of getting help for. So
Right,
what happens when you're anxious or in a time of unknown, right? You sometimes you see the worst of people because everyone's on edge. So when your sense of safety is being threatened with the unknown, or being totally bombarded by social media telling you that well, you're going to die, for God's sakes. We have a tendency to go in panic mode, and we're not easy to get along with when our brains are on fire, telling us that we're, in fear mode. So a lot of the time, the worst of us comes out in those times, and then you're kind of living amongst each other, having to navigate people's crazy moods at times, or cyclical behavior, cyclical, I don't know, personalities, if you will.
Yeah. Well, we all have our issue, and it could be anger, it could be
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, it could be there's all kind of fear we can bring up.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
thing is to overcome those fear. And I don't there are challenges for us to be better. It's
Mm.
like, okay, I was confronted with a lot of noise, like excessive noise, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And here I am in the house. I'm thinking I'm moving from there to a house. Then I get here and they're fixing the road in front, like digging deep and changing all the sewage and water pipe and everything. So, that
Can't win.
that experience got me to work on myself, because it is true, what you think is what you send to the universe, and what you send to the universe is what you get. So
Yeah.
you got to be very careful of your thoughts.
Right.
And that's what people are teaching that on YouTube a lot. Be aware of what you're thinking, because if you think negatively about something, it's going to come back worse.
Absolutely. And I think what you experienced, especially when it comes to noise, was that it triggered you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So when we're triggered, and again, back to this whole, even during COVID or anytime, what tends to happen is our lizard brain starts to scream because we're in panic, and we have a tendency to react the way we did as kids, as you mentioned to me while you were going through that time when there was noise at the shelter, was how it triggered you. And that sometimes it's going back to our childhood, and it brings us back to how we reacted back then. Some of us go into paralysis. That would be me. And then there's others who get angry and will lash out. So to be aware, as you said, be aware of our thoughts, because it's the automatic thoughts that we almost need to be aware of, to say, wow, I'm being triggered. And if we can at least get behind our thoughts, or see ourselves thinking, right? Go to that place where we can actually see ourselves thinking of the trigger, of saying, this is why my heart is racing, or this is why all of a sudden I'm zoning out. Or if you know that you feel a bodily sensation that has you react, that's usually a time when you're probably being triggered. Triggered being we're remembering, we're going back to a time when we were either afraid or hurt, or just had an emotional pain that we remember in our bodies. So a lot of the time with COVID, this is what it was spiking in all of us, different responses. But typically, to your point about being aware, it's almost like it's not a bad thing that it happens, just that when we're aware that it's happening, we can actually calm ourselves down. We can certainly tell ourselves it doesn't have to continue like this. We can choose activities that bring us down, right? But it's that self-awareness for all of us, and self-awareness of others, because we know that everyone else is going through that same sort of sensation, that allows us to have a better experience so it doesn't escalate. So
And
we don't,
it's how we perceive things also.
yes, yes,
Our perception may play a big role in that.
huge, huge.
Huge.
Because if you have a tendency to get angry, and blame the world for how you feel, then that's what you go into. You automatically will perceive that someone is attacking you when in fact that's not the case at all. Or you can perceive that all of a sudden you blame yourself, which I might do, and go ahead and take that on my shoulders to say it's all my fault. And then you go inward, go into depression. So you sometimes have anger, blame the world, or blame ourselves, go down.
Hmm.
Right. And it's just knowing what persuasion we have, right? What's our survival strategy when we were little kids? Do we go
Right.
and hide under blankets, or did we lash out? Did we have anger? Did we have temper tantrums? Did we, throw a brick? So if we're aware of it, that's when we can do the necessary things to at least those few seconds to say, all right, that's just me seeing things the way I used to see things. It's not the reality, right? And then calm ourselves down. If we can do that, and I know that's what we talked about a lot and worked with, was what are some of the strategies you can put in place that will stop you from escalating, right? Just to say, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, figure this out. Usually, if we can do that, right, 99.9% of the time, we can calm ourselves down with rational thought. Because when we're in panic mode, we typically shut our rational brain off.
Yeah.
And we do that because way back when we were cavemen, we didn't want to have to think about going into panic mode to run away from a tiger. Our bodies are naturally geared to react right away to fight or flight. That's why, so that we'd survive.
I
Well, we're not
fight.
exactly, and I fly. Right? I run, hide, avoid, right? Deny. Um, but those were survival strategies that we used when we lived in loincloth, right?
Right.
When we used to, right? We don't need to act that way. There's not any threat like of that nature to us, but our brain doesn't know that yet. So anytime that would happen when we were in caves, we wouldn't be able to think rationally because it would shut our frontal cortex right off, so that we would just move and not think about it. Because if
Right.
you needed to run from a tiger, you do not think, well, let me see, where should I go? No, your body will go right into react mode. And that's what we do now. So anytime our brain feels threat, right, or perceives threat, doesn't even have to be real, of course, as you know, we just need to perceive it. And all of a sudden we're in panic mode. But what we want to do is be able to slow that down, and then we can access our rational brain. Because when we can do that, we can say,
And
my
well, and it's easy for me to say now because I'm in a better place. I'm in a
yes,
better environment. But I kind of had those little thoughts too at the same time. When I got my notice,
oh
uh,
yeah,
you know, when when COVID-19 came, it was crazy in that building. Like
yeah. So it was everybody else.
everybody was going
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah,
That everything was shutting down. That was a challenge in itself,
yeah,
right? So COVID-19, everybody goes nuts
yeah.
just because of the shutdown. But then it's about perception. So the shutdown did reduce the price of gas. I'm like, I did put premium gas in my car at
For the
93
first time.
cents. 93 cents a liter. I'm like, what?
Whoa,
I was
go for a drive.
so happy about that. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, that's a
one good thing.
one good thing about it, it's like
Yep.
you know, and it's all about the perception because then I got my notice and I'm like, but it was not my place, and we knew that from the beginning when I first got there. The issue that I had started the very same day I moved in, and it lasted till I got there. I moved out, and when I got my notice, of course, the very same day I was devastated. in fear and all this and that.
Yeah.
But I cannot say that when I was in the moment, I've been able to turn it around, but I've been able to neutralize.
Yeah. I
Don't
mean, the,
think about the fear porn side of it. Of
yeah,
course, the fear of being homeless again was very, very strong. So just to neutralize that one
yeah,
was a major thing for me.
yeah,
But now that I'm here, it's just the way I found this place.
yeah,
If I would not have had a notice to vacate the apartment, I would not have been on Kijiji and all those websites and searching for another place. And I would still be miserable over there.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe I would have ended up homeless for lasting too long. You know,
Maybe you're right. You're
who
right.
who
Who
knows
knows?
what could have happened if I would have stayed. But now, my perception on that notice, when I got that notice first, I was thinking it's not fair. It truly is not fair,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
And it was not fair. Period.
Yeah, I look, listen, I remember getting the call. I remember it was our regularly scheduled coaching call, if I recall, that's what it was. And I couldn't believe it either. It was just, wow, are you kidding me? And the pain that was in your face. And it wasn't even the news. I think what was happening with what I saw in your face, Carolyn, was it brought you back to a self image that you had already climbed out of. You had already moved from there. And all of a sudden, in that notice, it almost made you feel like you had to go so many steps back after climbing, after getting to a point where it was you could see the light, where you were working on so many things about yourself.
Yeah,
And
I was seeing it, but I couldn't reach it
right.
yet.
You weren't there yet, but my goodness, to have the notice come in made you go backwards. And it wasn't true, of course, but the perception of being homeless again and all of the stigma that's associated with that was what was wearing on your shoulders that day. Your face was zoned out. Even though I was speaking, it was very interesting because I could tell you were with me, what you weren't. Your mind was back there.
I
Your
blacked
mind was,
out.
you did. There was nothing I could say that made a difference in how you felt. You needed to go and be with yourself for a while. But it was interesting how you even zoned out when you say you went backwards. You truly did. You were in a different time zone altogether. But even in that space of time, though, you did know, um, if I can say, and I know we didn't talk about this, but you did know though, because I remember you saying this, I need to go. I need to feel this pain, the depth of it. I need to go there and then
And I'm hearing
process
you
it.
talk about it, and I got my eyes water.
Yeah,
I go
it
back to that moment, and I I needed to cry it out.
you did.
I
You did.
was just devastated with all the work I've done, and everything I've done to get there, to get out of the situation of being homeless,
Yeah.
how much I fought for it, and all
Yeah.
this and that. And I'm like, no, I can't just keep on doing that because the place is not a place for me.
Well, that's it. It was interesting because up until that point, Carolyn, if you recall, how many times our conversation centered around leaving,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting because here was the gift, and yet because it was given to you in a way that was not of your control, right? It was given to you in a way that you perceived it to be rejection, humiliation, all those things that's how we go through life when we grow up from trauma,
And
right?
this come back to what I was saying priorly. What you think of,
It's not
if
the event. It was how you thought about it.
it's what you sent to, what you focus your attention on is what you sent to the universe, and
Exactly.
universe give you what you sent that to the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
So I was never happy in there. Of course I was grateful to be there,
Oh,
not being
absolutely.
homeless,
Yeah.
have
That's
my own little space.
of course.
But the environment all around, my
It wasn't a
neighbors
fit.
both side and on top of me, and then my window is like,
It wasn't a fit at all.
it's like if my apartment was a glass box. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody could see what I was doing. I had no
Fishbowl.
privacy,
Yeah.
and nobody was respecting anything
Yeah.
that other people. What if I'm sick one day and I have a migraine, right?
Oh
And I
yeah.
need to rest. So where do I get my rest time? When it's
Yeah.
not one, it's another. When it's not the other, it's another one. There's always something going on 24/7. And clearly, I was not happy there.
Well,
And I wanted to leave.
there was always animosity with the membership there,
Yeah.
and so yeah, our conversation centered around leaving for sure. But when you got the notice, you went to a new place. You went to the place that you were prior, and again, that's that same. When we're triggered, we go back. But what I know, like what we really have to be appreciative and quite, I was quite impressed with, was the day that you still were zoning out when we were talking. You were in pain, you wanted to cry, you were still able to know that you needed to go and cry. So there was an awareness there, Carolyn, that
Yes.
you had to have gotten out of yourself to say, let me go cry. Let me do what I need to do to deal with this. And that's from learning how to have survived in the past. I think what you did was dig deep. You knew that you had at least the energy to say, let me do the steps I need to do. And one of these steps is to just be by myself, do the crying, and get to that next level, because you had been there before. You've been
Yeah.
there before, but you did need to acknowledge it. I mean, you were triggered. Absolutely. It brought you back to times where you were in the most pain you've ever been. And you needed to climb out of that. And now you're saying, great, now I got to climb again. But at least you had the ability, right?
Yeah.
To say, I'll talk to you in a bit. Monique, right now, I'm out of here. I've got to go and I've got to cry. And both of us were in
And
tears. I think
I
we were
could
both.
tell. I could tell also. I couldn't listen to what you were saying.
Oh, absolutely not. And
Eh,
nor was it my place at that point when you're zoned out like that, right? This is
right.
not a time when you're going to be giving advice, and I don't even know what it feels like to be evicted. So, I can't even appreciate that. So I'm
Right.
here to support your next move, but the answers come from you, not me, right?
Right. And
So you've got to be willing.
and now today I can only be grateful for that notice, when at that time I was so pissed,
I know,
angry, and
I know.
name it all. It's not
Oh yeah,
fair. It's
I
eh,
know. And it was the best thing that ever happened, but you couldn't see it that well.
no,
It's hard
no,
to see it when it's given to you as an eviction and you're being, I mean, it's hard, but
no.
but
But without
it was.
it, I would not have found this place on
You'd probably
KDG.
still be there,
That's right.
yeah.
And uh, who knows? It's many possibility, but it's not my road, right? So because I got here, right? I found this place. I found myself on another road. And also this is thanks to you, because you're the one that brought the idea. I did make
You did the
myself
work.
a Kijiji ad offering my service for exactly what I'm having here.
It's Listen, you were able to go from your trigger, which by the way brings us back to when we're little girls, when we were hurt, humiliated, rejected, dismissed, denied, invalidated. We could go on forever with all those words. You had to go from that again to the point of being neutralized, like you say.
Yes.
Then you took the time necessary to go from neutral to what do I need to do?
And
And
focus on that only.
and you did. And you did. Despite
Yes.
the negative around you, you still had the negative nuances around where you lived. You had the negative message of being evicted. Remember, you couldn't find some jobs either. You had to apply for jobs in a noisy environment where you had to interview with noise everywhere.
Yeah.
COVID was still happening, right? You couldn't get away. And yet, look, you did this in a month. You did
And
less than a month.
yeah.
You were able to bring this all together.
Well,
It was incredible.
because I did ask to leave that place to the universe gave me a notice.
Yeah.
Fine. Now I have a deadline.
And that's exactly right. What
But
happened?
everything is on divine timing.
Yeah.
Everything was on divine timing. Everything happened on the right timing.
Yeah.
And the
It did.
more the 30 days was going, and I'm like, okay, now I only have 2 weeks, for fuck's sake. It's like, where do I start fearing,
No, I
I'm
know.
like, I didn't want to settle for a star age and focus on that and focus on being homeless. I'm
I
like,
know.
I was, but in the meantime, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know the future.
You didn't
And
know.
so I had to have a little bit of backup. So that's when I said, okay, just in case, have a reservation, you know.
Yeah.
And then I got here,
I remember.
which
I
was
remember.
perfect because they were looking for somebody that can move in
I know.
24/7 to take care of their mom, and they didn't want to have so many people coming in. And
Well, you were listen, I remember you saying, listen, I'll help anyone, right, in exchange for rent. Like you were
right,
willing to go into somewheres and you would, do the lawn, take care of, just simple chores in exchange for free rent. And the way this manifested, it came to the point where, well, first of all, a big home, this big house, a lady needing your help that you like, you're fond
yeah,
of. That they allow you your freedom, but then on top of that, you gave me the last the coaching call where you announced all this. You said, and on top of that, I'm getting paid.
yes. So
Like
I
this
get
is
off
a job.
welfare, people. I'm
Yeah,
off welfare. Now I have my own income, which did allow me to send Kaz her dream catcher.
yeah.
So Kaz, you got your dream catcher. It's over there now. You go and get it.
Not only that, a reference for the future because this is a full-time job, and you're doing an amazing job at it. So, and I remember, listen,
It's 24/7,
I know,
and now I'm set that on Thursday I have Thursday free. So there's Caddy that come over, and she replaced me from lunchtime till bedtime around 8:39 if needed. I can come
right,
back earlier and just be in my room and just chill,
right, right.
and
Which you deserve. I mean, you need some downtime
yes.
too. I mean, it's
So,
no, this is
but
amazing. And I remember you saying, listen, I mean, we looked at all your options at one point. I remember talking about it. You had your car, for God's sakes. There was one point you said, I'll live in my car for a bit, maybe. Maybe I have to, when we were looking at different shelters, we were, you know, so the
oh
fact
no,
that,
I was done with that.
yeah, I know, you said enough. And you, you,
No,
you brought it together. You did it. You
yeah.
had, less than a month really by the time, everything came through. And yeah, so incredible story. Loved it. just, yeah.
Incredible
And look
story.
at you go. I mean, it's not just, it just keeps going.
And then I got here, and then I tell them, "Oh, what about a juicer?" And they
Yeah.
get me a
They buy it for
juicer.
you. Yeah.
And you tell me, "Oh, you spoiled now." I'm like,
Yeah. I was like, what the hell?
and
Just look at you go.
why not?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's not to spoil me only. It's for her too, because having all those nutrients from the vegetable in such a small amount just to drink, and
Now, can I just say this? No, you've taken this role on like a champion.
thank you.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I tell everyone it's not only are you taking care of her, like you understand her nutritional needs, you look up things, you're making her daily. You've frozen some of her daily meals that are like healthy. You're making sure that for her to get her vegetables, it isn't a smoothie because it's easier for her so that she's getting nutrition that she needs. You're making sure she has a schedule. Then on top of that, you're recording all this and communicating with her family members, which
Yes.
gives family members a peace of mind because they want to make
Yes.
sure that she's being taken care of. And by having a recording, a chronology of all that you're doing and how she's responding, allows them to have an insight on her day to day, which to me is just peace of mind. And again, no darn wonder, they're happy with you. And this is just such a good story where there was a need and a supply, right? And they came
Right.
together in the universe because it was meant to be.
Right.
And right,
And they know that I take good care of her because she's not afraid of me.
right,
One
right.
day, they were over here during August, the beginning of August. We had visitor because it was her birthday, and they were all pleased to see that she asked me to take her to bed, and she hold my hand. So they were so happy. So
Oh,
it's like, okay, so
so here her family is there and she asks for you. Oh,
yes.
that's, yeah,
So we kind of bond to the point
kind of.
that, yeah. Well, she's very comfortable with me here. I mean, sometime, I'm here on whereby talking with people, and I start laughing, and she hear me laugh, and she laugh too, and that makes it even more
Yeah.
fun.
It's one of those things where, when you really think about it, for those that are listening, um, never give up on what you need. There's always a way to get what you need, and it comes in maybe different packages. So in a way, you have to be open to create creative thinking. And creative thinking can only happen if you're not in fear mode, if you're
Right.
not right in panic, or if you can be self-aware of when you're in panic, because then you perceive things dangerous. Like as you said, you see things that aren't even there. You perceive it to be a dangerous world when in fact there's opportunities. You have to just be open to them, right?
Yes, and focus your thoughts. Like, when I was in that space, I really had to work really hard on not focusing my thoughts on the fear of becoming homeless, because it was real, right? But if I would have spent all my days thinking about becoming homeless, oh fuck, I'm gonna become homeless, I'm gonna become homeless again, and pity me, it's not fair, and go on like that. No, I'm not fighting for that place, but I'm
Right.
not willing to go homeless again. I'll do all that I can today to change that. And
Yeah.
uh, so that's how I was able to go to bed at night, knowing that today I've done all I could today.
That's and you bring up a really good point. Um, when you can break down, like when you're in fear mode, we have a tendency to be anxious about the future, right? And we think bad thoughts. We think, okay, homeless. You
Right.
probably had a picture at first of just, well, that being homeless, nowheres to go.
Not just a picture, an experience.
Exactly. You've been there, right?
I've been there.
So, but if you can break it down so that you say, what do I need to do in the next half hour? What's the one thing I can do? Like, stop that thinking of the future, but just to your point, what do I need to do in the next half hour? And then do it, whatever that is. If that's to make a call, if that's to, get your clothes done or whatever, then do it. And then you stop and say, what do I need to do in the next half hour? Keep doing that. And you're right. When you go to bed, you say, I did what I could today. And that reduces anxiety, because when you're doing something about it, you're getting yourself closer to not being homeless, or going towards what you want, which is finding a solution. And that's really hard. But if you can break down, half hour to half hour, if you have to, minute by minute,
Right.
honestly, it
Right.
really is. If you can just focus to stop and say, okay, never mind the future right now. Just stop. What do I need to do right now? What's the one thing I could do? One thing that I can do that moves me towards my goal. Right. And if you
Yeah.
can come up with something, and at least you'll be proud of yourself if you do it for the 10 minutes, say, well, okay, I
Well,
was able to, right?
and in that time, I needed to take time once a day, whenever I can or feel like it, and just not think,
Yeah. Yeah.
just nothing.
How did you do that?
Oh, that was difficult.
I was going to
Well,
say,
it's like meditation, but you cannot not think, because not
you're
thinking
always
is
thinking.
something.
I know, because then you're fighting with yourself. It's like, okay, I'm going to try not to think. And then we think, right?
So you know what? What I was when I do when I need to meditate,
Yeah.
I focus on one word. When I feel my
Okay.
head go spinning in thoughts of this and that, the grocery, the laundry, the this and the that, and the this and the that,
Yeah.
I bring myself back to shut up and think of only the word gratitude.
Ah. Ah.
And I've been doing that for a long time, and uh, to bring myself back to the word gratitude, it works.
That's
But
a really good point.
even though I do that, people, I still get my mind spinning around.
It'll
And
spin.
okay, when I cut myself that I'm already doing the cleaning the house, I bring myself back to gratitude,
Gratitude. And
gratitude,
and
and
that's a
I
really
just think of that word, because you cannot not think
well, exactly. You got to have something to replace the bad thinking, the future thinking, or the past
to
thinking, because
replace
past is
everything,
depression, anxiety is future. And to stay
because
centered,
living in the now,
it's
that's what it is.
it is. And what you did with that word, and maybe someone else has another word that allows them to just center. If you have a word that you can hold on to, so that when your mind is racing, gratitude's a good one. Now, gratitude is a perfect one only because when we are thankful, right, regardless of the word, because the word means being thankful, and if we can actually feel that, like feel thankful for what we have, that automatically has our heart rate go down, and because we open up to love. So when we let love in, I know that sounds, kind of like a little cheesy, but
No, no,
honestly,
it's not
it's
cheesy.
opening your heart when you can not be fear. You can't have two emotions at the same time,
That's right.
right? So it's either fear of the future, depression, the past, or love the moment. And gratitude allows us to do that. So if we have children, we have a pet, we have a mom or dad that we don't have issues with, we can actually, think gratitude. And there's a reverse gratitude process where I have a hard time thinking of what I'm thankful for, because sometimes when I do my list, It sounds moat, like, oh, I'm thankful for my health, I'm thankful for my kids. But someone taught me how to be
No, don't.
reverse
Yeah, just
thank.
don't be
It's
thankful for this or that. Just be thankful. Just
exactly.
gratitude for
Or
everything. Don't pick and choose my car, my house, my
yeah,
family, my children. Don't pick and choose. Just be
just
thankful.
be
That's it.
thankful.
That's
There
it.
was also another trick someone taught me that I liked though, and it was reverse gratitude, which what you do is you think of your life without something. So let's say hot water. How would you like taking a shower without hot water? And
I
then you
wouldn't
think,
like it.
right. So then we say, oh, I appreciate hot water. Do you get what I mean? It's like a little trick to your mind to say, try to go without the things you have right now in your mind. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm really thankful because I hate cold showers. In fact, I'd be cranky, badly cranky if I had to take a cold shower. So again, it's more the little tricks of the mind to keep us centered.
In
And you have that
fact,
with that
if we
word.
run out of water, we won't take a cold shower. We'll wait for the hot water to come back.
We would go days without it. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Or if I think of my life without coffee in the morning.
Oh my God.
Ah!
No coffee. Are you kidding me? Nah.
Exactly. So it's a little trick of the mind to say, we can be thankful when we take it away from ourselves, but even that little game allows you to stay in the center in the moment.
Right.
So you're right. Big time your trick on being able to say gratitude. It's the one word that allows you to feel thankful. Like that's really good,
Well,
Carolyn. Like,
during that 30 days, I needed to live in the now and for every second of my days and night.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I couldn't afford thinking of the future or the past at all.
Because worse is if you are in the future and your mind is going racing, we can't get anything done,
Well,
right?
you imagine the future based on your past. So
Right.
when you want to change your past, let's say you had a crappy past and you want a better future, you can't think of the future with based
A crappy path.
on your past. So
Right.
the
Right.
first thing to do to change your life around is to live in the now. That
Right.
is the
And to be able to
and
get
not
things
fear tomorrow and not feel depressed about yesterday.
exactly, because those two emotions, being in the future, fear of the future, or depressed of the past, also doesn't allow us to move. We can't do anything. Because when I'm depressed, I don't pick up the phone and do what I need to do. I don't
No.
go and do what I need to do. I stay paralyzed. Or if your mind is racing, you don't know what to do first. You just sit there idle, like you're an idle. So you wouldn't have made your Kijiji ad. You
Mm.
would not have been able to do the things you needed to do to even look for a job, because I know you were looking for a job at the time too. So it's so important to that minute to minute, to your point, staying in the now and using a word. The word
Mm.
gratitude worked for you, and that's a survival. You'll be able to use that for the rest of time, right?
I'm a survivor.
You are, you absolutely are, and helping others be too. So
I'm waiting for my medal in the mail.
well, you are selling some dream catchers, which
Well,
I'm
I
hoping.
haven't started selling them yet.
Well, get at it then.
Yes, I need to really get settled here. I do a little bit at a time every day, and I'm not completely fully settled yet. But when I will be, then creating a website where I can sell my dream catcher is not an easy task, also. I've looked on few places and yeah, it's not like most of them, they charge you
Oh
to
yeah,
uh,
yeah. You
uh,
need no, you need a place where they don't have that. But also, I guess the reason I'm also bringing it up is when you say you're a survivor, the dream catchers to me, sort of represent that. So there's an energy in those
Dream
edit that
catcher.
one, dream catchers that allow for that sharing of energy,
Right.
right, towards the positive and the universe, and to get centered. All the things that were so necessary for you to get to where you are right now and where you're going. So this, I mean, this to me is like the first step of many for you.
Right.
And sharing with others, with, like I said, the dream catcher, but also on your channel here, where others might be in dark places, where you know what, these same steps and these same learnings can
Right.
be applied to them as well.
And you offer your services, right?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
So you have a website,
I do.
and I put the link of her website in the description box, people, so you
Excellent.
can go on her chat on her website and fix an appointment or even send you an email, right?
Yep. Yep. There's a little place where you can either send an email or click on, uh, I guess, book an appointment, and an email will come to you from me where you can actually go in and set up a time with an email.
Right. Let me see if I can bring it up.
And as well, someday maybe I'll be doing videos because Carolyn's teaching me how to do these.
Yes. So we have, you can book an appointment here, and where do you get in touch? You go and get in touch,
Yep.
and you can send an email right here, and you have her journal that she keep. My unique help. She give a definition of what she does. My story and home. And there she is, using self awareness to help others find perspective, purpose, and peace. How about that?
You say it so well.
So, something else you wanted to create also. You wanted to create a group meeting.
I did. What I'd like to do is have sessions that are free, that we have like minds getting together to support each other. And because a lot of the time, a lot of our issues, there's commonalities, there's common themes. A lot of the time we get a lot of strength from those that are going through similar problems, but we share in strength what we've been able to conquer, accomplish. And a lot of our support will come with us being able to discuss what's happening and what's going through our mind. And I think we need a forum to allow for that sort of sharing, that communal sort of sharing. And that doesn't have to be that it's just sharing vocally, but it's also sharing resources, books, things that have worked for us, that sort of thing. So we'd love to suggest or start some sort of a group forum that allow us to, whether that's on a bi-weekly, monthly, some sort of basis. I'll get Carolyn to help me with that.
Yeah, and you have a whereby room where you can
I
get
do.
up to 12 people at the same time. So,
Right.
people, if you are first interested in having a conversation with Monique, you can reach her on her website. And if you are interested in getting into a group meeting on via video conference through whereby with Monique and I, you can also mention that to Monique. Monique is in charge.
Well, with Carolyn's help technologically.
I will
So
help technically with the technique and stuff, and we'll work it out. And
absolutely
that's
looking forward to
going
it.
to remain private, right? It's not
Of
something we're
course.
gonna put
Yeah.
online. No.
No, no. Go through us to be able to request to join, and we'll make sure that we do have the confidentiality as a group.
Right.
That what's discussed in the group stays in the group,
Yes.
and go from there.
And it's to help each other, because sometimes what works with one doesn't work with another, and more idea we have, you know, it's easier to find something that might fit for you, or
Right.
maybe to hear all of that can help you create your own coping mechanism, right? It's like,
Yeah. The self therapy. Yeah.
yeah,
I found that when I was going through, and here I had been a therapist for quite a few years, a long ways back, and also a life coach. But what I noticed the most was when I was going through what I was going through, which was depression for a while, um, I found I had more strength and support from doing my own self therapy and reading and hearing from what worked for others than I did in finding a therapist that would have the same chemistry I needed. In fact, I ended up not having a therapist work with me because I just could not find the right one that had the right background and training that I needed and who was available, because they're really hard to find.
right,
First, they don't have availability, then it's also the cost. Not everyone has a plan. So
right,
a lot of the time with the newest and latest on neuropsychology and things that are online, sometimes it's nice just to have people share the best books that you can take on your own and work with others. And you're right, not everything works for everybody anyway. So a lot of the time we want to take ownership of our own mental wellness. Just like our physical wellness, we can't rely on a doctor to always be there and give us medication. We need to be holistic in ourselves and make sure
yes,
we are the drivers of our own health, and that being holistically our mental wellness and our physical wellness. So this is one step towards that. And yes, of course, there's a huge need for psychologists, psychiatrists, for disorders that we need to deal with. But a lot of the time we need to also begin that on our own, to make sure that it's effective, that there's efficacy with where we're going with our own self-therapy.
right. So, in closing, what
Yes.
what would you wish for my subscriber that is watching you right now?
I
What
my wish
what message would you like to tell them?
I think my message is that you have answers within. You don't need others to help where you need support to bring out your own answers and your own guidance. The universe wants you to succeed. And all you need to do is find the ability to be self-aware so that you can find that kind of strength within. It's possible.
It's possible. And what's the most important is to trust that you can find it, trust that you are worth it.
Yeah,
And if I've been able to change my life around, so can you, right?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Good job.
So, on this, people, I'm going to tell you ciao and see you next time. And Monique, you stay with me. We'll talk a little
All right.
more. And I hope you enjoy. I hope you get something out of it. And leave a comment under the video. And if you have any question, please do not hesitate to contact Monique. That's what she loves to do. So let's get to work.
Thanks, Carolyn.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time. Bye bye, YouTube.
Bye for now.
Bye. So, and for me to live in the now and in the love took a whole bunch of fear away, because just like the video I made of the movie with Will Smith after Hurt, fear can only exist in the future,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So the more you live in the now, the less you fear.
Yes. Yes.
And the less you
Bingo.
think about the future, because and the true power is in the now. If you want to change your life around, it's
Yes,
that's where you get, because like you said, you get to choose, right?
you choose it. You choose now, you choose love, because you can't have two emotions at once. So if you bring love in, fear goes away, and so too does depression.
Right.